gentlemen, welcome to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio. Today's episode, we'll be talking about the DA table's a motion of no confidence in the ANC cabinet, not Cyril Ramaphosa. And speaking of Cyril Ramaphosa, Sona, let's chat a bit about that. Do you still trust Cyril? Should we trust Cyril now? And of course, ESCOM looks to become debt-free. We'll talk a little bit about that. And I'll also be chatting to my guest tonight about what does it mean to be liberal in 2022. All this and a lot more, ladies and gentlemen, coming up in just a minute. Stay tuned. Hello, welcome back. All right, so we are here, and I've just noticed that my so unprofessional right now, Joe. Man. Anyway, I'm back. I'm here. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. If you're wondering where I was yesterday, it was Valentine's Day, so took the night off, spent it with the lovely wife, and yeah, it was nice. We had sushi. It was delicious. Anyway, getting to the topic at hand, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the brand new show, the Joe Emilio Show, where we are now 2 hours on a Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, unless it's Valentine's Day. 7 o'clock, new time slot, 7 o'clock. I'm going to stick to the 7 o'clock. I like the 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock works for me. It works for me. It doesn't work for you guys. You can always watch this later or tune in later. Whatever the case. Doesn't matter. But yeah. Anyway, should we get into the topic at hand? Already some people tuning in. Man, Cameron Engelbrecht. When's your birthday, buddy? Because I want to get you on as a guest, but age might be a bit of a problem. So, how old are you? And or when are you turning 18 this year? Are you turning 18 this year? Just answer yes or no. Doesn't matter. Yeah, so we are here with a 2-hour show, ladies and gentlemen. First hour with me. Second hour, we're going to have Duwayne Esau, I think is how you pronounce his last name. I'll have to ask him when he's on. If you're wondering who that is, someone I met on Twitter. He's a very interesting man. That makes him sound old. He's not that old. But yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. So we're going to chat about what it means to be liberal in 2022. I feel like that definition in the dictionary it hasn't changed, but main corporate media would have you believe otherwise. He only turns 18 in 2024. Okay, that's okay. So we're a long ways away. That's fine. Hopefully I'll still be around on YouTube by then. But yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so we're going to chat about some other stuff, ladies and gentlemen. I've prepared some things in here. I'm not sure where to start because actually a lot to talk about. Like I mentioned in the intro, I want to talk about the DA tabling a motion of no confidence against the ANC cabinet. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to show you a little video clip, which I think is hilarious. And then we're going to talk about Sona. And I think I'll leave those two for a bit later. Let's talk a bit about what I saw today in the headlines very quickly. This will be very quick. All right. SA Ways taking on ESCOM's 392 billion billion, right? Billion.
Ma'am, can you give me protection from yourself?
I mean, they're actually thinking about this, ladies and gentlemen. 392 billion.
Hong, hong, hong.
I mean, there's nothing. I hope you like the sound effects. So, yeah, basically. All right. So what's going on here? So what's going on is that the government. All right, here it is. Okay, let me just. Here it is. South Africa's government is considering taking over part or all of ESCOM's 392 billion All right, 392 billion.
Listen properly.
Debt as it seeks
Listen properly.
to restructure the cash-strapped power utility loan obligations according to International Monetary Fund. What is going on, people? This is a bad idea. I don't care what you're trying to do. This is a bad idea, because we know where this money is going to go. It's not going to go to where it's supposed to go. No, of course not. It's going to go to the gators. It's going to go to the gators, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently, they need to settle part or all of the debt in order for them to break up Eskom, because they do want Eskom. Where is it? I saw it. Here we go. While shifting Eskom's debt onto the state's balance sheet would make the utility financially viable and smooth its planned split into transmission, generation, and distribution businesses, it would precipitate a marked deterioration on the nation. I don't know why I can't read. I'm tired. Already stretched finance. In other words, it's going to be cock expensive. That's basically what's going to happen. Okay, that's basically like, yeah. That's all I gotta say. It's too much, man. It's too much. I mean, it's... And guess who's gonna pay back the money? It ain't gonna be the government. It's gonna be the taxpayers, guys. Just saying. But moving on to other things that are just, make you question what this government is doing. Big TV license change planned for South Africa. Okay. Don't know why I gave it a bit of a twang there. Look, let me just say very quickly that I've been following this story for a while now. If you watch me on TikTok, you'll know I've mentioned this before. So, South African government wants to implement a TV tax. In the article here, they're called the levy, but it's a TV tax. So, in other words, okay, when we pay tax, you're paying for the TV license. Now, I know that some countries do this, and because someone told me in a comment on TikTok, like, yeah, but they do it in the UK. Okay, in the UK, shit works. Okay? In the UK and other countries, like, that's the thing when you talk about these levies and these taxes, like everyone's like, oh, let's up the tax. And it's like, what you people don't understand is, okay, we up the tax. We continue to up the tax. But here's the thing. It's like 15, 16% now. I think it's going to 16. They're talking about 16% now. Like, it's a lot of money, especially income tax. Like, it takes nearly half of your income. Well, the higher you're paid, the more it takes, basically. Which sounds all good and well, right? But here's the thing. Nothing works. I just showed you an article of Eskom with its nearly 400 billion rand debt. Okay? Like, nothing is working in this country. The health system is in the shit. The education's in the shit. Everything's in the gutter, all right? And you want to add more tax to fix things? You guys have taken enough tax. When I say you guys, I mean the ANC, all right? You've taken enough tax from people, and it's not going to where it's supposed to go. You make one example of your 15 million rand stadiums. You remember that? 15 million rand stadiums, right? That's just a, twig as a makeshift goalpost, okay? Like, seriously, things like this crap needs to stop. Just more tax. And this is basically what South African government wants to do right now, is have a big TV license or TV tax. And what amazes me about this story as well is that when I put that video out on TikTok explaining to people that this TV tax might be coming, right? I had a lot of people commenting on the video saying, oh, I don't own a TV, or I watch on my iPad, or I watch on a projector. Guys, it doesn't matter if you own a TV or not. If you pay tax, you're paying for that TV license. That's what they want to do, all right? And this is what this article is talking about. It's if we go down here, you'll see. Okay, so blah 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 blah. They want a clean slate. Yada yada yada. They're not getting, like, there's a lot of people that aren't paying. So there you go. But let me just see where it says here. Our general. Okay, so our general report shows SABC also plans to outsource its TV license operations to third parties going forward, while a number of website enhancements are expected to make it easier for South Africans to pay online. Because you have to register, and then they'll take it like a subscription, like Netflix, right? So there you go. Here it is. Under the current regulation, first-time applicants for television license must pay a full annual fee of 265 Rand. Renewals must then be made annually before the license expires, which users given the option of paying 264 each year, or you can pay 28 Rand in monthly installments. So it's a subscription thing, like Netflix or whatever, right? So that's what they want to do. All right. But where is that section where I saw tax? Somewhere here. Blah blah blah. Blah blah blah. Debt collection agency to follow up on non-payments. Blah blah blah. Clean slate to improve. Okay, wait. Do not worry about making payments. Amnesty would also like to move to a new collection model which aims to focus on general levy rather than individual licenses. So there you go. General levy tax. Okay, they just changed the words now. Okay. This is a paragraph before what I just read there. So either they're going to have a general levy, or they're also looking at a subscription-based type of thing. Or the subscription is the levy. You just don't know. Because, like, 28 Rand or 264, whatever amount it is. 65, sorry. 265 Rand a year or 28 Rand a month is probably all going to go to the government. That's your tax. You either pay monthly or you pay for a year. So there you go. So that's one. Okay, and then the final headline I'm going to bring up just now, I just want to get to some of the comments. Got Clay Wilson in the house saying, I'm freaking out about the state of affairs around the world. Yes, Canada is in trouble. We here in South Africa haven't even started fighting back. That Clay, man, you're going to make me want to go into a rant, man. And, like, people in South Africa need to stop comparing the rest of the world to South Africa. Yes, I know South Africa follows in international footsteps, but South Africa has its own problems, man. Like, okay, here's the thing. Okay, talking about Canada. I'm gonna try and paraphrase this as quickly as possible. Canada, Europe, America, they have infrastructure. They have a police system that works. It's not perfect, but it works better than South Africa. All right, everything works better in other countries. Well, not every other country, but first world countries than South Africa, right? Everything, healthcare, everything. Yes, they have their own problems, and yes, it's not perfect, but it works, and that's the big difference. South Africa will never ever be able to do what Canada has done. And if they do, the only people it's going to affect is the middle class. It's not going to affect the people in the townships or the poor. It's not going to affect the rich. It's going to affect the middle class. Just like the lockdowns. I mean, we saw it. We saw it during the lockdowns. I never once saw any army in our street. But they were all over in the townships, apparently. And they probably weren't even in the rich areas. No, they were other places, because people couldn't social distance. You couldn't implement those things. You had to send in the army. And then, guess what? ANC forgets to feed the army. I mean, that's why I like these people who say that Cape Secession is going to lead to war. How? When the ANC can't even feed its army. and Denel is almost bankrupt or is bankrupt. Like, what war are you going to have? All the Cape secessionists need to do is look at the army and be like, hey, we'll feed you. Just come on to our side. Boom. All I'm saying is, I know people are freaking out about the rest of the world and stuff, but I'm just saying, South Africa, guys, please, it's just not going to happen. It's just not. They barely have enough army to survive a weather forecast, let alone a war or implementing anything. Not to mention the army's corrupt as well. I don't know. I just don't see. Everyone's freaking out like, oh, look at Australia. Oh, look at Canada. Look at what they did. Ain't gonna work here, guys. It just ain't gonna work. Anyway, I don't want to get into a whole story about that. I got other things to talk about. And I've mentioned this before. Maybe if I have time, I'll get back to it later. Clay, remind me, because there is something I would like to explain to people, I think, that need to hear this. But anyway, yeah, I was done with the TV license thing. I wanted to get to the comments. Even the gutter in South Africa. Yeah, you can say that. Sorry, Joe. No, don't be sorry. You're allowed to have your say here. I'm not the Canadian government. I'm just saying, like, it's different here. Like, you can worry about the Canadian government. I mean, I have family in Canada. And it is crazy, and it's wrong, and it's not right, and it's horrible. But to be worried that it's gonna happen here is it's laughable at best. But speaking about things that it might happen here, ladies and gentlemen, here's some. I don't know how we feel about this. I don't know how you guys are gonna feel about this. Because it's kind of good news, but at the same time, it's like, do we trust it? That's kind of how I feel right now. Here we go. Cabinet approves final extension of national state of disaster. So basically, they're extending the national state of disaster for 1 more month. So I wouldn't say this is official, but it's kind of official because it's like news. I don't know. We might be right now, as of today, actually, in our final month of state of disaster. But don't get too excited. Okay? Don't get too excited. There's T's and C's, ladies and gentlemen. There's T's and C's. Before I get into that, let me just say hello to some peeps that have just come in. Dodgy Idealist, ladies and gentlemen, has joined in. Dodgy, by the way, your boyfriend might be joining us in our little discussion. I say boyfriend is we okay, inside joke, ladies and gentlemen. It's not really his boyfriend, but yeah, you know what I'm saying. All right, I'm gonna have a very interesting discussion with Dodgy and 2 other peeps soon in March about, is hate speech real? This is stemming from a recent panel discussion that I had where Dodgy actually said he doesn't think hate speech is real, and I see both sides of the coin, and I'm very excited to have this conversation, especially with the one guy, Zake, who hopefully will be on the show. I don't know yet. He seems keen. Maybe he's a bit shy. He gets a bit stage fright. That's fine. But we're hoping he'll come on, and another guy, 2 other guys, and we'll have a nice, calm, fun discussion about, is hate speech real? Very much looking forward to that. Morik Rock is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Doesn't our army only have like 1,000 members? And they're not choreographed very well, by the way. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen how, like, they did that one march and they were going in different directions. I don't know. So final. Yeah, final. Exactly. Yeah, believe us this time. Yeah, I can see already you guys are not Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm gonna get to that in a moment. Hello, Gavin. Thank you for tuning in. Morg saying hi. Yes, my new lover. It's okay. I will console him. Anyway, um, getting back to this. All right. So, here's the thing. In a statement, which, by the way, they say here in a statement. Where is it? No, it's not here. They say during his State of the Nation address. I don't remember him saying this in the State of the Nation address, but I don't know. I was half listening. So, but anyway, Canada's statement has approved what it's called the final extension of the national state of disaster until the middle of March, which marks 2 years, guys, 2 freaking years, since the president's first declaration. Again, during his State of the Nation address Thursday night, President Ramaphosa said that the state of disaster would come to an end as soon as other measures to contain the pandemic were finalized. And that makes me worry because they are basically saying that some of the regulations that exist in the state of disaster against C-19 are going to be implemented in other legislation or law, which I'm hoping, and this is my question, which hopefully next week I'll get a chance to ask. And for those of you watching, remind me to ask, because I'm going to have a panel discussion about ending the state of disaster with AfriForum, IRR. I'm waiting on Sochalicha to confirm, and there's another one, DRSA. So an individual from each organization will be on the show next week, Tuesday, on our panel discussion about end the state of disaster. And I want to ask them about this article, and I want to ask them about, okay, so in the current state of disaster, we know that the executive has, like, immense power. Like, they can do whatever they want almost, right? The whole thing about, I don't know about how it works about tabling something in Parliament and then everybody has to vote for it, right? So if there are changes done to law, does it not have to go through Parliament first? Or is there some kind of loophole that they know about that we don't know about, and they're just going to, like, write up something, gazette it, and push it through like they have been doing? Like, for example, they banned chicken, ladies and gentlemen. That's not a lie. They banned chicken, jeans, open-toed shoes. We remember this. They banned cigarettes. They didn't have to sit in Parliament and vote for that. They just made it happen. So I wonder now if this whole waiting for I don't know what to come along, if that's the same thing. And then by the time the state of disaster is over, they still kind of have a lot of power. You know, what exactly are they going to change? That's my question. You know, so it sounds goody, but at the same time, when you really think about it, you're like, wait a second, what are they going to do? Also, another question is, or another thing to keep in mind, rather, is you got to remember, this is like not election, but it's like Cyril's up for his presidency thing, whatever thing. So obviously he's saying all the right things now, you know. So yeah, you can have your freedom back, but it's a little, yeah, exactly. So yeah, it says here, yes, but under state of disaster, Parliament power is suspended for social cohesion. Yeah, see what I mean? That's what I'm worried about. Yeah, that's, you see. Okay, so Dodgy's with me on this one. Yeah, it's worrying. So I'm going to discuss this with the boys, or with the guys, next week, Tuesday, about ending the state of disaster. I really want to ask them about this and see what fight we might have in the future, ladies and gentlemen. Because, I mean, to Clay's point here, you know, we're seeing crazy stuff in Canada. We might see some crazy stuff in South Africa. And it might not be as crazy as Canada or Australia, but it might be a little bit of crazy. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Other than that, let's talk a bit about. I'm not gonna be on this for too long. I just wanted to give my opinion because, like, I've seen a lot of people just praise Cyril Ramaphosa after his SONA address, which to me is like weird because I'm like, guys, This guy lies like all the time. This is the same man that said in 2018, he said load shedding will be a thing of the past by 2020. We had load shedding like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. This is the same man who said he would rather see the ANC united than divided. You know, this is the same man that said, "Oh no, you will never be forced to take a vaccine," and yet here we are, a few months after that, and well, it's being spoken about. No. I noticed how that didn't really come up in Sona. I could be mistaken on that one, but no talk about mandatory vaccines as of yet. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, he has been encouraging corporates to enforce it, which is almost like saying, no, we're the government. We're not doing it. It's the corporate people that are doing it. It's the private sector. No, we're not. See, we said we'll leave it up to them. Yes, but when when you work with the government, you kind of don't want to piss off the government. Like, you don't want to bite off the hand that feeds you. So, I mean, anyway. So, anyway, like all this talk about, you know, we got to trust the private sector, and that's where they create jobs, and all this stuff that the DA and other parties have been talking about for quite a while. Now the ANC jumps on board. And I've got my little theories of what's going on. And my theory is this. Cyril is cocking himself because it's the upcoming, you know, presidential thing where he might be out of, you know, he's got to fight for his position as president of the ANC. And I think he's trying to split the ANC. I think he's trying to create a bit of tension there. And is he good on his word? I don't think so. I think this is a man that is still aligned to the ANC, but he wants us to believe that there's two ANCs, right? There's like the Zuma ANC and the Cyril ANC. But here's the thing, guys. They're two different sides of the same coin. They're two different wings of the same bird. Like, it doesn't matter, okay? The ANC in general is terrible. They haven't been doing their job. They suck at what they do, and they only care about themselves and enriching themselves. Having said that, I'm going to go to what happened with the DA not too long ago. I think it was today or yesterday. I can't remember. DA tabling a motion of no confidence in the cabinet. The ANC cabinet, not Cyril. Not Cyril. So what does this mean, ladies and gentlemen? What does this mean? I've been doing a bit of research. I've been asking some people. Apparently what this means is he will just have to fire everyone in his cabinet. So, if anyone thinks that the ANC is going to be destroyed by this motion of no confidence with the cabinet, that's not going to happen. What's going to happen is, well, these are the steps apparently. First off, the speaker has to accept it. And if the speaker doesn't accept it, then DA will go to court. Or they have the option to go to court. Put it that way. And then fight it in court, and then it's a whole long process. If the speaker does accept it, then there's a bit of a discussion, and then the entire parliament will vote on the motion. And then if they're outvoted, which is highly unlikely because there is a large majority that is ANC, and EFF will be probably the deal breakers, then Cyril has to, well, the entire cabinet has to be redone. And the DA is claiming that they're going to help Cyril choose who should be in cabinet. I don't know. This is a weird one for me because while it sounds good, right, that the DA is fighting like this, it sounds, listen to what I'm saying, it sounds good. I don't think it's really going to help. Look, let's all be honest here. The ANC knows they're on their way out. They see the writing on the wall. They're like 46% now. They're below 50%. They know the jig is up. All they care about right now is making money, or as much money as possible. Then they'll probably flee to another country and never be prosecuted for what they've done, for all the stuff. Like, we'll see the biggest heist in human history happening now till 2024. That's what's going to happen. And whatever is happening now, like right now this year until December, is all part of Cyril's plan to try and stay in power and to bamboozle some of the people, because it's working, man. Some of the people are like, oh my word, Cyril's changed, the new dawn is coming. No, it hasn't. It hasn't. He's just trying to make sure that he stays president. Once he stays president, everything else will change. I mean, come on. He's had how many sonas? 3, 4? You want to believe him now? After the last ones, he lied? Nothing. What happened to the smart city? Where's this smart city? I don't know. I saw models. Anybody know where can anybody drive to the smart city? Like, let me know in the comments if you're watching this afterwards. Let me know. Have you seen the smart city? I want to know. Tell me where it is. Let me know. Anyway, what I wanted to show you guys is a clip from ENCA, which I thought was really funny, because it's John basically announcing his little motion thing, okay? But there's one minister, and I think it's Fikile, who, I don't know, man. Okay, just watch his reaction, because it's like, it just makes me laugh. Hold on one second.
Opposition parties are firing their...
Okay, I'm not gonna force you guys to watch the whole thing. Hold on. And get to the part. Blah blah blah. She's talking a whole lot of bully. Okay. Here we go. All right.
So, here's what's going to happen, Mr. President. Because you've shown that you're a president of talk and not a president of action, we are going to make it easier for you. Today, I've tabled a motion of no confidence.
Wait for it.
Not in you, but in your whole cabinet in terms of section 1021 of the Constitution.
Just look at his face. I think it's Fikile. I'm not sure. It's a minister, clearly on the ANC side. That is a face of worry, in my opinion. Look.
If it's not possible for you to do right by the people of South Africa...
Like, I'm sorry, he wasn't clapping, and he didn't look happy. Like, that's not a happy face. That's a, oh crap, I'm going to need to pay... How am I going to pay back my Ferrari if this happens? You know? This is a crap... How am I going to pay back that loan? How am I going to buy that house in Hawaii? You know what I mean? That's... all that money is going to go bye-bye. Well, if this really happens, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But this guy does not look happy. Like, this is not a happy face. Look at that. Look at that moment right there. That moment right there is when he envisioned the money just gone. Woo, that's a stressed face. That's the face you have when your bank says insufficient funds.
Emotional damage.
Yeah, that's the face of
emotional damage.
Oh man, best, absolute best, man. That priceless. It's funny. Yeah, so again, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see what happens with this vote of no confidence on the, or against, I should say, the ANC cabinet. I don't know. I don't have my hopes up. I think either way, we're going to see the ANC out sooner rather than later. But we'll see. $2024, man. It's all over. I just want to see what you guys said about that. Let's see. Okay, hold on. If it goes through for the vote, the ANC will ask for a known vote and not anonymous, like they did with the Zuma back in the day. Well, I mean, so what? The ANC knows everyone hates them. I mean, what's the secret? The African heist, yeah, it's a good one. There's one in Cape Town. Why does nobody send me this stuff? On the 19th of Feb. Wait a second. Clay? 19th of Feb is Saturday. Okay. I would love to go, but like I don't know any details. See, this is this is the problem with these organizing. I don't know who's organizing this, but like the marketing is abysmal. How do I not know about this? And I'm like part of groups here. Like I know people that organize this stuff. Yeah, I would love to cover it. So am I available this weekend though? Shit. Lunch. Yeah, I am free on Saturday. Okay. Clay, you have my number. Please send me the details on WhatsApp. Please. And I'll try and confirm by tomorrow if I can be there, because I definitely would like to be there. That's pretty cool. But you gotta let me know. Is it Joburg? Is it Cape Town? What is it? And don't tell me you're driving the Sea Point Promenade. That's not a freedom convoy. Man. Okay, you guys like it? Yeah, he was triggered. He was absolutely triggered. Cool, ladies and gentlemen. Well, in about 25, well, just under 25 minutes, actually, Duwayne Esau, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm going to ask him how you pronounce his name when he's on my show. He's going to join, and we're going to talk about what does it mean to be liberal in 2022. I think it's going to make for an interesting discussion. I've been wanting to chat to this guy for a while. His link to his Twitter is in the description, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to go give him a follow on Twitter, you may do so. Please go check him out. Sorry. All right. So what else can I talk about? Yeah, guys. I don't think going back to the whole Sona thing. I see a lot of people praising Cyril, and I'm like, when has he ever told the truth? When? He lied on international television about farm murders. Since then, I've never trusted the guy. You know, I was fooled by the Cyril, what's it? Cyrilomphoria or something like that? I was fooled by it. I was like, yeah, no, get rid of Zuma. Let's get Cyril in. He's a businessman. I fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker, guys. Sorry, I saw this comment. I will tell him to follow you back. How about that? I'll say the dodgy idealist is livid. Unbelievable, unacceptable. All right, that's what I'll say. But yeah, I think here's something. Here's something. So let me just finish off on saying this. All right, Sona is just theater. That's all it was. Did you know that they spent 4 million rand to make it happen at the Cape Town Hall or whatever it's called? What do you think that was about, ladies? Biggest heist in human history. Okay, everybody wants to talk about this. Okay, I wanted to talk about this anyway. Live it. I got 20 minutes, so here we go. All right, I don't really like touching COVID-related stuff. because it can get my channel in trouble. But what I will say is this. It is horrible what is happening in Canada. I think this little wussy boy is a prime minister or president. I don't know what they have in Canada. Who cares? Look, since when does Canada even matter, man? As an American, we have that song, Blame Canada, Blame Canada, Blame Canada, right? Canada used to be known as like the friendliest place on earth. Now it's like this weird, like, this is so un-Canadian, right? This Justin guy. Who is this Justin guy? Guys, all I can say is that Justin does not represent the entire Canadian population, clearly. Anybody who's been keeping an eye on the story. And that this Freedom Convoy stuff has spread across the world. I mean, there's one happening in Cape Town, hopefully, or South Africa. Hopefully Clay will send me some details. I'll message him later. Maybe he left the conversation. But I haven't seen him say anything after that. But look, I understand everybody's worried about what's going to happen in in Canada, and it's messed up, man. I mean, really? You invoked a state of emergency because of some truckers. Do you know how that sounds? Do you realize how that sounds? Because they came and they parked at the Parliamentary Drive parking spot, right? I don't know where they parked. They parked somewhere in front of the Parliament thing. All right. And they made a little bit of noise, and they hooted a little bit, and they probably pulled out their barbecues and made some meat. Like, these are people. Here's the thing, though. As far as I know and as far as I can tell, there's no violence. Like, maybe there's a few fights here and there, but no businesses are being burnt down. No cities are on fire. No looting is happening. So as far as I can tell, where's the emergency? Where is the emergency? No, this is all about little Justin Trudeau with his little limp dick trying to look strong. This guy is compensating heavily. Okay? You asked, I'm telling you. That's how I feel. Justin, you should be ashamed of yourself. You are not Canadian. You are a disgrace to the Canadian people. And I will quote Moses, let my people go. Boom. Mic drop. Done. How was that, Mork? Did you like that? I know why he's doing it. He's so pissed off that people are funding the truckers that he's trying to make sure that they don't get money. So, yeah. Getting a lot of interesting comments now. Mork said he loved it. Trudeau and manipulating the narrative, something's afoot. Maybe. Amazing. Yeah, man. Look, I mean, this is people have fought so hard for these freedoms, and people forget. I think the new generation doesn't understand the amount of fight that went on to have these freedoms, and now the new generation's like, oh, but we gotta be safe, guys. Well, that's an interesting take. But to what end, AK? Why? Wait a second. Do you mean it was an inside job so that Justin could implement the emergency thing? So that you could have absolute... Now, that's an interesting theory. Yeah. Interesting theory. I don't think he's smart enough. I think you give him a little bit too much credit, or the people that surround him a little bit too much credit. I don't know, man. It seems a bit much. It is weird though that the corporate media is not covering the story, right? Corporate media is avoiding the Freedom Convoy like the plague, right? No, they can't do that comparison because they would cover a plague. Yeah. Freedom Convoy starts. I don't know what IOC means. Somebody help me out. The Pardon Kral pub. Is that in Cape Town? Yeah, send me the details, man. Send me the details. 19th of Feb, 11 a.m. Okay. Is it Cape Town? Is it Joburg? Let me know. Anyway. What I will say, ladies and gentlemen, about, a lot of people, even Clay often asks me, like, why aren't South Africans, like, standing up? Why aren't there a lot of people at these protests? Like, I think there was one protest where they had quite a bit of people. Actually, a few. I'm lying. There was a few protests where there was quite a few, but they get a lot of people, and then they, we don't, like, everyone always says, oh, why aren't we getting millions like America? Why aren't we getting millions like Europe or Spain or Italy or all that stuff? Or Australia. Guys. Thank you, Behave, for, was that a boomer moment because I didn't know what IOC was? Thank you. It's LOC, actually. Location. Thanks. And yes, it's in Cape Town. Thank you, Itachi. Awesome. You guys are awesome. All right, so here's my little knowledge bomb for you guys that are organizing these freedom things. Okay, like the Worldwide Freedom Rally and Freedom Convoy and all this stuff. Okay, any protest, really. You have a big fight if your narrative goes against the mainstream. Okay, if it goes against corporate media, you have a huge fight. That's number one. What makes the fight even harder, actually doubles the fight, is number two, and that's demographics. Now let me explain. Okay. You must remember that before C-19, okay, South Africa had a very bad unemployment rate. It was bad. It was like, I think it was like 20% or something. I can't remember. Okay, I could be mistaken, but it was high. Ish, and economy wasn't great, so we were already in trouble. Okay, I remember just before the lockdown hit, we got demoted to junk status. I don't know who remembers that. So, thank you, Clay. I see it. For those who are interested in watching, if you want to be part of this, there's the details. So, I'll be there to cover it. So here's my thing with this thing. All right, you must remember the South African middle class is actually quite small in South Africa compared to the 66 million people that live here. It's quite small, the middle class. And it's like, I don't know. I'd be lying if I gave you a number, but it's probably under 10 million, more than likely. It's definitely less than half of the population. Okay. Of the middle class, okay, you don't have a lot of people earning big salaries. I mean, yeah, it's just how it is. I'm not going to go into detail now about why that is. But the reality is this. Unfortunately, the masses, I mean, guys, the stats speak for themselves. 46 or 45, I can't remember, something like 40% of South Africans are now unemployed. That means 40% of people aren't paying tax. They're they might be on social grants, they're unemployed. They have nothing. They don't have a job, right? Now you would think that this would anger people and that they would automatically think, oh, it's because of the lockdown that we don't have the job. But that's not how people think, unfortunately. Because the government's giving them grants, which is the COVID grants of 350 Rand, yes, it's small and it's pathetic, but they're getting money, they're getting something. Why would the average South African, the average poor South African, want to bite the hand off that feeds it? So in effect, what you have is a group of people that don't understand the reality that the ANC, that the reason why they are in this situation is because of the ANC. They don't understand that because they've been fed by the mainstream media and all that stuff. They don't have access to YouTube. They don't have access to alternative news. And that's a problem. Also, a lot of these people don't have transport. So you want to organize a march or a protest, but more than half of the people can't get there. There's a lot of challenges, and I'm summing this up very quickly because my guest is going to be on soon. But my point is this: when it comes to these protests for freedom that are happening, you have to fight the corporate media with their narrative because they're going to paint you as evil people. You know the names that they'll call you. And then you're going to also suffer to bring people in, because not only do the people that you actually want there to be there, not only can't they get there, but also there's other people that probably would be there, that probably could be there, but they're too scared of being canceled. They're too scared of being labeled. They're too scared to go out because they have a job and they're like, I don't want to put my finances at risk. So there's a war on many different levels here. And that's something these organizers of these freedom protests need to understand. I am not criticizing you, but I need you to understand that your battle is very, very, very difficult. And props to you for keeping it going, for keeping it going, for keeping it going. Month after month after month after month, these things have been happening. And I applaud it. But the problem is, a lot of the times, I start to question, like, maybe you're doing it too often. And maybe you need to be a little bit more brazen with the marketing. I mean, there comes a point when you need to say enough is enough, right? And the marketing needs to be adjusted, and you need to be a little bit more brazen. That's my opinion. Thanks, Dodgy. I'll chat to you later, buddy. That's my opinion on the matter. I think there's still a lot of work to be done. And I think that these people that are fighting for the freedom should keep it going. And also, now that things have relaxed a little bit more, people are busy. People are trying to find jobs. People are trying to work because they've got, they got to make a living, man. So your battle really is difficult if you're going to organize a protest for freedom convoy, whatever you want to call it, for a worldwide freedom rally. I'm not against it. I'm not. I'm just saying the battle is strong. You need to understand the demographics of South Africa to understand why you're not getting the millions, and you probably won't get the millions. There's too many cultures, there's too many tribes, there's too many ethnic groups. You need a representative of each one to go on the ground and tell the people your message. Until that happens, you won't get the masses. That's just the reality. And it's the same mistake politicians make, in my opinion. It's the same mistake Cape secessionists make. No one is on the ground speaking to the people. You're everyday South African. It is what it is, man. And I'm sorry, the truth hurts, but it's the truth. In about a minute or so, we're going to have a bit of a break, ladies and gentlemen, as I welcome on my guest. It's not self-doubt, man. Don't have. I'm just telling you this as a realist, and from experiencing some of these protests. I say keep going, but I say that at some point your strategy needs to change. Do it once every 3 months, once every 4 months, and between that time, you're on the ground. You're getting people on the ground trying to spread the message, and then you can move to every month. I've seen people do this once a month. It doesn't work. It's not working. It does spread the message and it is getting bigger, but it goes like this: 100 people at the one protest, 200 at the next. You get all excited. 500 at the next. Then the next one is 100 people. It keeps on going up and down, up and down, up and down. So that's what I'm saying. Like, just, but keep at it. This is just my opinion. I could be wrong. What do I know? I've never organized a protest. What do I know? I'm just a guy. I'm a comedian on YouTube. Man, why are you listening to me? Although I'm more trustworthy than Cyril, to be honest. So maybe I know something. Maybe I don't. I don't know. But Clay, keep doing it, man. Keep telling the other organizers to keep doing it. Eventually, hopefully, it'll take hold. And you guys, you need to get the message out to the people. That is key. That is absolute key. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, my guest is waiting in the green room. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy this break. Yes, I have breaks now on the live streams. It's professional, yo. Told you, 2-hour show. It won't be 5 minutes. It'll probably be less. But let me just go and make sure my guest is happy. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. While we're having a bit of a break and while we're here, I just thought I would let you guys know that you can become a member to this channel. When you become a member to this channel, there are 2 tiers. There's the Support Act and the Headliner Act. Each tier has its own perks. I'm not going to go into all the details right now, but just click on the join button, usually right next to the subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed yet, by the way, subscribe. If you want to become a member, it would be greatly appreciated. It really goes a long way to supporting the channel and helping me to continue to create content for you guys. And just in case you might be interested, for some of you who may not know, I am also a stand-up comedian and I have a one-man show coming up in June of this year. There is a link in the description with all the details that you need to know, when, where, and how much, so please go check it out in the description below. There's also another show that I'm doing with fellow comedians. You may have seen our Say What show on this channel or the Late Night Chat show on this channel. We're doing a live show, and that's kind of a pun there because we mean in person with a live audience show. Please go to the link in the description below where you can find all the details. It is called Say What Unbuffered. So once again, take a gander at the links below and all the information will be there. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. I told you it wasn't going to be 5 minutes, and as you can see, I have Duwayne Esau. I'm totally guessing how I pronounce your.
That is correct.
All right, fantastic.
You got it.
All right, yes, Duwayne Esau is with us, ladies and gentlemen. If you're wondering who Duwayne is, I will tell you in a moment. He is a young liberal and public policy honors student. So you're still studying?
Yeah, studying and working at the same time. So
Fantastic.
that's fun.
No, it should be fun. Duwayne, we met, I think it was December, November?
Yes, round about there for
Yeah.
the first time.
For the first time. Seen you a lot on Twitter. You always have great tweets. I enjoy
Thanks.
reading those tweets, and I've always wanted to have you on the show, so thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me. Thank you to your viewers.
Awesome, man. So I thought we could talk a bit about what does it mean to be liberal in 2022. Now, the reason why I thought about this topic is because I know you're a libertarian. I consider myself sort of, I guess, I don't know, labels these days, and this is why I want to talk to you about this, is because
Yeah.
corporate media would have people believe, the public believe, that you and I are far right, I don't know, crazy people.
Yes, yeah. Outright.
Yeah.
outright.
And you know, we wear white gowns and we go to secret meetings and burn symbols. But but it's far from the truth. As a matter of fact, we don't like those people either.
Exactly.
So in you know, just to help people out, maybe we should start from here. What is the actual definition of liberal?
well, I don't know if you mistakenly said libertarian, but I actually sort of define myself as a liberal, sort of a classical liberal. A liberal, in sort of the truest sense of the word, is essentially a person that subscribes to certain sort of, I would call them core principles. The core principles of the ideology, liberalism, as it were, is a belief in human rights, in equality, in the free market, in private property, and individual rights. But I think the sort of distinguishing factor when it comes to liberalism is that, as opposed to any of the other political ideologies, is liberalism believes that one ought to place the rights of the individual above that of the group. And that is often where liberalism differs with other political philosophies. And I think, in a nutshell, that is the best and easiest way to describe it without getting into all these sort of philosophical detail, which I'm sure we will do in the next hour.
Yeah. I know, it's actually a great definition, and I would tend to agree with probably all of it. I think what is interesting, though, is how that definition has been twisted in today's current time. You know what I mean? Like, again, corporate media will try and label us as these very evil, horrible people, just because we say these things and we believe in property rights. Oh my God, how dare you?
Exactly. How evil.
So what if someone who's watching now, right? So you corrected me earlier. You said, I said libertarian. So help me out. What's the difference between a liberal and a libertarian?
From my understanding, the difference between liberal and libertarian is, essentially, in a nutshell, is more government involvement, as it were. So the libertarians believe that we do not need a government sort of at all, right? So government is sort of superfluous, and that we can essentially replace government with either private citizens or private entities that can essentially take over the functions of government. There are obviously sort of points of contention in that argument, like for instance, the service that government provide that is not profitable. So who would then provide that? But there are many prominent libertarians that have come up with arguments in sort of in contrast or as a counter to that argument. So that's essentially the difference between the two. Is that as a liberal, liberals generally agree that there is a need for government, at least at a minimal level, right? So another core tenet of liberalism is limited government. It's not sort of the sort of big statist, big government, endless social programs type of government. Yeah.
Okay, so libertarian likes government, liberal doesn't like government.
No. Liberal sees a need for it in a limited sense, but libertarian does not. So they would believe. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you are liberal.
Yes.
I would be, I guess, liberal as well. I don't know. Is there a need for government? See, here's the thing. Like, government needs to work first.
Of course.
Like, can we not have that T's and C?
Yes. Yeah. That's. I think as a point of departure, that is what one assumes. As a liberal, you assume that the sort of the state is functioning, and therefore it serves the purpose, that sort of minimal level of purpose where you would need a government to step in, right? We all know this. We all know that there is a basic level of services that needs to be provided for free for people who can't afford to provide it for themselves or pay for it to be provided by the private sector. Now, if the government does not succeed in doing that, then it's a totally different ballgame. Because then they do not serve their purpose in the first place. So then the libertarian argument becomes sort of self-evident. You're like, well, they aren't doing this anyway, so why do we need them?
So then, do you move over to the one that says we don't need government? You're kind of forced onto that.
Exactly.
Onto that side. Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's keep it to a South African context then, because the government right now doesn't work. ANC failing on so many levels. For those viewers that were staying with me at the beginning of the hour, you would have seen all the things that I brought up. Like ESCOM now. Anyway, the question I want to ask you is, in South African context, does it change what a liberal is?
I don't think so. I think that there is in every theoretical idea there is an ideal, right? Even in chemistry, even in science, there is an ideal sort of gas, if you will, you're right. But then there are also the ways that gases actually behave in the real world. Similarly, there is the ideal philosophies, the way sort of the I don't know what you would call them, the founding fathers of these philosophies, like Adam Smith and Hobbes, and those people sort of foresaw what the philosophy would look like. But then there are also the practical limitations of the real world. For example, in an ideal world, we would not need for social programs to take care of themselves. In an ideal world, we would not need free education or healthcare, and all these sorts of things that we would not need. But unfortunately, we do need them, because the reality is that there are people who fall through the cracks. There are people who can't take care of themselves. So the reason why I don't think that liberalism changes, depending on where you are, there are core tenets that one has to subscribe to if you want to call yourself a liberal, because there's always this argument of like, well, liberalism is all about tolerance, right? And so where do you sort of like draw the lines? I think you draw the line at the core tenets. Once you sort of sway off those, then you sort of lose the core liberalism, if you will. But yes, I don't think necessarily when one comes to a South African context that it's a completely different ballgame, because ultimately, where liberalism was applied previously, as a country, we still have to get there. I mean, if you think of the sort of first world countries, as they're called, or developed states, most of those countries operate under a sort of a liberal or liberal democratic system, right?
Yeah.
Although there may be technical differences, and my point is that they have been where we are now. They were once developing countries. They were once countries where unemployment was an issue. If you think of America during the Great Depression, they were once nations where unemployment was kind of out of control. But when they then implemented liberal policies, they managed to save themselves. And even South Africa, I think, at the sort of dawn of our democracy, this is what I find interesting about the sort of whole whether or not liberalism is applicable in South Africa and whether it worked. When we had the opportunity to write any constitution we want, we decided to write a liberal constitution. Like when all the chips were down, we could basically start from scratch in terms of writing the framework in which our country would operate. We landed on liberalism, and that was not an accident. It's because that is the only model that allows people of different races, different religions, different creeds to live their life as they see fit without constantly being at each other's throats.
Yeah, and I often say, like, Western Cape is a very good example of this in terms of, like, on a very small scale, obviously. But, you have many different, like you said, races, groups, creeds, tribes, whatever you want to call it, religions, people from different backgrounds, and living in harmony. And it's great to see. So I think my point is Cape Secession. No, I'm kidding.
We can talk about that if you want as well.
we might get to it.
Yeah.
But I really, okay, so I feel like South Africa has taken the term liberal and twisted it. Because if we look at some of the people that we encounter on social media, and I'm sure you've seen some of these individuals, these Anon accounts and others, who I wouldn't say that they advocate or say that they're liberal. I don't think I've seen them ever say that. But they kind of use some of the ideology from liberalism, if I can say that. Because they also preach like, oh, we must be tolerant of each other. Oh, we must be equal. Oh, we must be this. So there's a lot of that being spewed out. But they don't act the way a liberal would. Like, I don't know if I am. I don't like these labels. I just believe in treating other people good. Respect one another, that kind of thing.
Yep.
I do believe, obviously, in individualism and like, everyone has the right to live their life and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
As long as it doesn't affect me or hurt me or whatever. So I don't know if that's liberal. I don't know what that is. But my point is this. liberalism to me sounds good in the sense that, like, it also preaches, everybody's allowed to live how they want to live, and as long as you don't affect others, we need to tolerate each other. But then there's a point where it seems like there's liberal and then there's crazy liberal, because because some of these liberals, or whatever you want to call them, I call them far left, wokies, will preach tolerance, right? They're like, oh, we gotta be tolerant of everybody, but then they'll look at guys like you and I and cast us aside and say that we need to be condemned and try and go after our income and do all kinds of horrible things. I'm not saying that you've been canceled, but I'm just using an example. So what do you say about that? Do you think that these wokies have taken or hijacked, for a better term, the term liberal?
I think you just broke up for a bit.
Sorry. No, I asked you I asked you the question. Do you think that the wokies and the far left have hijacked the term liberal?
Oh yes, definitely, absolutely. And I think the reason for this, the underlying reason for this, is because the entire world is so influenced by the US, and liberalism in the US has been, the meaning of the word has been changed, and as liberal in America became essentially more left leaning and ever increasingly more leftist, it has dragged the entire world, the entire sort of Western world along with it, right? Because we are so influenced by the culture in America. We dress like them, we want to be like them, we watch their movies, we follow their politics. And so as the identity of a liberal in America, or the meaning of it, has changed over time, the world has slowly but surely shifted along with it. And you have all these contributing factors, such as what you call critical race theory, and sort of cultural Marxism, that has broken out on campuses, that people like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson have been quite vocal about. So all of these things have contributed to that, right? Because even the word progressive has now become a word that I don't want to associate myself with. But it's weird because people like Helen Suzman and Colin Eglin and Frederick Clubber Francel, in the South African context now, they belong to a party that used to be called the Progressive Federal Party, the PFP, which is obviously the sort of ancestor of the DA. So those people were progressives. Martin Luther King was a progressive, but the word has now taken on an entirely new meaning. And that's why many liberals don't subscribe to sort of that description of themselves.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I remember when I was growing up, and I told my wife this once, like, because I consider myself like I was left, if that makes sense. Like I was on the left before Trump, like pre-Trump. I was on the left, and I thought I was right. Like I thought I was where I was supposed to be. Hey, equality and all that stuff. I was like there, man. I wasn't communist. I knew that communism was bad and horrible, and it's been tried before and it failed, and then, all that cock. But I really, really thought left was good, right? And then my eyes were opened up, and I've been saying for a while, like, oh, I'm center leaning right, but I've grown to not like these labels, because I feel that everybody has is very complex. We have a lot of different beliefs and stuff like that. So, but for context, all right. So you've got liberal, which is on the left, or is liberal like a center thing?
So liberal isn't, according to my understanding and according to the political spectrum, liberalism is dead center, right? Okay. So that's in the sweet spot. That's like the ideal. And then you have sort of left leaning, right leaning, and further out, on either side. Okay.
So you've just confirmed I'm a liberal. Thank you. Now, okay, so you have liberal, right? And you can go more right, or you can go more left. And apparently if you go more left, you start to enter the progressive sphere of things.
Exactly.
Okay. Exactly. So is progressive now? So that's the left of the left.
Yes.
That's where Nancy Pelosi likes to be. So, so, is there any more than that? Is that like boom communism?
No,
Or
no. So, well, what people don't understand is that this is sort of this is the sort of march towards them, right?
okay,
It's a march towards the end result is what you're saying is communism,
okay,
because the principles are the same. So it is this belief that if you do not subscribe to, or if you do not agree with us, then we will cancel you. So
yeah,
we will silence you, right? That's a march towards the extreme, and
yeah,
and 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 we are well on our way there. And the today's progressivism is more under, it has more cultural Marxist undertones,
yeah,
in terms of their whole postmodern approach to the world, in terms of there are no absolutes. You know, so essentially, in postmodernism, everything is up for question. That is what fed the whole sort of gender slash sex movement, gender identity slash sex identity movement, right? Because it's, even if someone looks like a man, how can you just assume that he's a man, right? So there are no absolutes, and that's where the whole non-binary argument comes from. But to your point, yes, you can go further than progressive. So progressive, as I currently understand it, is right between sort of liberalism dead center, and then your sort of far left, which is like complete Mao Zedong, like communist regime vibes, so that's completely. But even the progressives of today, they some of them clearly state, and you can notice it by sort of the people that they idealize, like say Che Guevara. Those are people that wanted to implement a system, a political and economic system, that have led to the deaths of literally millions of people. And what these people don't understand is that we aren't going to. There's no way to do it better. It is that the idea itself has a fatal flaw, because it encourages a form of irresponsibility, right? Because it's all about sort of this communal living and this communal responsibility, and we all know what the story of sort of the tragedy of the commons. If no one owns a piece of land, it quickly turns into a dust heap, because if no one owns it, no one has the incentive to take care of it. It's not new ideas. We've been here before.
yeah. I agree with everything you're saying. I mean, like it's yeah. But this is, again, these are the things that I started thinking about when I was on the left. That I'm like, wait a second, guys, we've done this before. It doesn't work. Why do I feel like I'm being pushed in a certain way? It doesn't make
Yeah,
sense. And I got a funny story though about the Che Guevara thing.
yeah.
So just a quick side bit. Um, I used to wear a Che Guevara shirt, but
I'm
like,
not surprised.
oh, you're not. What the hell?
No, because normally everyone that's like, because so people that there's like, this is a huge generalization, but people that sort of identify themselves as left leaning or leftists are way more into these like cult figures, right? So they'll
Yeah,
wear like the Che Guevara T-shirt, and like you'll be able to identify them basically from the way they dress and the way they behave. Whereas people sort of more to the right or right leaning, as like conservative, classical liberal, that side of the spectrum, like you won't see someone wearing a Ronald Reagan T-shirt, you know what I mean,
yeah,
or like a Margaret Thatcher lapel pin. Like, it's just because those kind of people don't lend themselves to things like that, because that's it, because they understand the danger of sort of cultist ideas and behavior.
yeah.
It becomes more about the personality than anything else. Then.
Yeah, I think I was in my teens, like young teens, when I wore that shirt, and I was actually going through my old album, and my wife saw it. She's like, "Oh my God, you wore Che Guevara shirt," and I'm like, at the time, I didn't even know who he was. He was just everywhere. And then I Googled
Yeah,
him, and he was
yeah,
like this guy. And then once I found out what he really did, like I stopped wearing the shirt. But like it was one. It's like, you know how things just get into the mainstream, and then
yes,
everybody's
yes,
like
no, of
wearing
course,
it, and then you're like, oh, I want to be cool. I
yes, of
want to.
course,
I was like, even like,
yes,
even when I first saw the shirt, I didn't even know it was Che Guevara. Like I was
yeah.
like,
You just
oh,
wear the
that's the
cool
guy
shirt.
I've seen before on a shirt.
Yeah, I need to get that shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, I've even I feel like Che Guevara is still excusable because, like, um, he, there's such a romantic idea about Che Guevara, that has been created by sort of history and academics and pop culture alike. But I've seen certain shops selling like literally cups and T-shirts with the face of Karl Marx, and I feel like
Yeah.
there's no way that people don't know who that is. Like, there's no way you don't know who that guy is,
No,
and like Marxism,
I never
literally in
wore,
the name.
I never wore that. I never wore Karl Marx, and I never wore a swastika. Sorry,
Okay.
not a swastika. Well, I never wore that either. But I mean, what I
Yeah.
mean is not a swastika. What's that thing called, man? The Russian that was on the USSR flag.
The hammer and sickle. The hammer and
Yes,
sickle.
yeah, that
Yes,
one. I
yes,
never
yes.
wore a shirt because you see them nowadays. Kids are wearing that.
Yes, they're very popular. Very,
And
very
I'm
popular.
like, really, guys? Like, not even me, who was on the left at a time, would wear that because I knew there was like a limit, you know.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, getting back to the topic, and you said classical liberal earlier. So that's something I
Yes.
personally want to know. What is the difference between a
Yeah.
liberal and a classical liberal?
The the classical liberal, this is gonna sound very, very cliche, but so when you are a liberal, you are generally more social in your beliefs in term in the sense that um you will generally be more inclined towards a government that has that is geared towards sort of social welfare, right? Social welfare. But the classical liberal, which is like right leaning, so it's like center right, so that's like right between liberalism and conservatism, right? So it's very close to conservatism, which is what people often say that classical liberals are just conservatives who are afraid to say they're conservative, right? Because no one wants to say they're conservative apparently. If I was, I'd quite happily say it. But anyway, so when you are a classical liberal, you would be less inclined towards that the social welfare aspect and more towards a personal responsibility, which is why it's so similar to the sort of conservatism. Interestingly enough, classical liberalism in the United Kingdom was founded or was rooted in the Conservative Party, today's Conservative Party, because back in the day there used to be two parties called, I can't remember, I think it was the Whigs and the something else. I can't get the names now, but it's the Conservative Party is essentially an amalgamation of two parties. Um, and so they took the sort of kind of best of both worlds, as it were, the sort of the best of the left and the best of the right, and turned it into um, classical liberalism. But classical liberalism is distinct from the sort of mainstream or sort of just normal, run of the mill, moderate liberalism, right? And that's how I would describe it from my understanding.
Okay. Now I think I've shifted into classical liberalism. Because like I used to say on the show, like I'm center leaning right. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
guess I would fall under
yeah,
the classical liberalism.
yeah. Also, there would be there's sort of this very fine balance. As a classical liberal, you would generally be you would not be in favor of sort of high tax, right? You would not be in
Yes,
favor of
not in
that.
favor of that.
Um, you would be in you would be inclined to be more in favor of free enterprise as opposed to government regulation,
Yeah.
which a lot of liberals would prefer for the government to regulate quite heavily, but the classical liberals not so much. So those are some of the differences. But it's very, very nuanced. So one really has to get down into the details to bring it up to the fore.
Okay. Okay, but this is making my world a whole lot clearer. I'm definitely classical liberal then. Um,
Welcome to the
uh,
club.
yeah. So I just want to say here, Mork Rock saying a Shea shirt is literally a ham and sickle. Dude, I didn't know. Okay, I didn't know. I wasn't into politics when I was 13, man. I had a skateboard, and that was it. Like, I'm trying to show off.
Also, it did
Uh,
help. I'm presuming, because I never wore one, but I'm presuming it did help with the lady folk. Because if you wore that, you were kind of seen as this like caring, bleeding heart type of dude. So I'm guessing it did help with the lady folk as well, or not? From you shaking your head, so I'm, I'm assuming no.
No. But then again, it could have been my personality. Who knows? All right. So I see a question from Mark, which I do want to ask you, but I'm going to leave it for later. So I'll get back to it later. So thanks, Mark, for the question. I will get to it. So, okay, so now I've been wondering for the longest time, man, what is classical and liberal? So you're really clearing up some things for me here. For the most part, I think liberal is not necessarily a bad thing. And if it's not, like, I think the DA would be considered a liberal party, or am I wrong in saying that? Do you think it is, rather?
Yes, I think you are right, especially because has now essentially made one of its policies a social market economy, which firmly identifies it as a sort of dead center moderate party, because in the most progressive societies in the world right now, that's the model that they are implementing, a social market economy. So the social market economy is more geared towards sort of the social welfare
Yeah.
of the people in that economy, right? And it's also geared towards having the actual workers in the economy actually have sort of ownership of the fruits of their labor, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to just earning wages. But that is also still quite a new idea for us as a country. And a lot of people sort of there's a lot of misconceptions around it. But I think you are right that the DA would be in our country, at least, the Liberal Party.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked, because the DA, I've been told, is not a liberal. Well, it is the Liberal Party, but at the same time, mainstream media again, or corporate media, would label it as like this horrible, racist, like non-progressive, non-liberal, or liberal. What was the one headline I saw? I could have sworn like a few years ago I saw a headline that said like DA trying to be liberal or something to that effect. Like that was the message that the headline was trying to convey. And as a matter of fact, I think, in my opinion, it would probably be the most liberal party in South Africa. I stand to be corrected though. What do you think?
No, I agree with you. I think I think this ties in with what we were discussing earlier, as with regards to how the meaning of liberal has changed, and how the entire world really has slid to the left, and how even if you are now in the middle, because they are so far left, you seem like you are on the right, like literally a right winger, which is not true, because if you actually read the DA's policies, the party clearly states that they believe in equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome, which is where the whole sort of quota argument comes in. And I think the real shtick that our sort of media has with the DA, and that a lot of people have with the party, is that they do not subscribe to sort of quotas in terms of race, and that they sort of believe in the equality of opportunity. And then also with that goes the belief that one should implement sort of a free market system, a free market economy, right? And that governments should step back. But there's all these sort of misconceptions, but it all stems from the core belief, because in our country, the ANC has created this climate where BE is essentially it's a part of our civil discourse. You can't have a conversation without BE and without sort of redress, right? But the DA does have a redress policy. It's just not based on race. So it is possible to implement a redress policy without looking at someone's race whatsoever. Because the problem with the fact that someone is colored, white, black, Indian, whatever, pink, purple, and poor, if they are X race and they are poor, the problem is not that they are X race. The problem is that they are poor. So when you are testing who you should be assisting and where redress should take place, it should be anyone who's poor. It doesn't matter what race you are. If you are poor, you need the state's assistance to improve your circumstances. And the sticking point there is that people say that yes, that's just a way for the DA to sort of to avoid the redress argument, but it's really not, because even by default, even if they only implement a redress policy without with race as a sort of determining factor, by default they will mostly be uplifting the black demographic in South Africa, because because our country is majority black. The majority of people who are poor is by default black, simply because they are higher in number, right? So in terms of proportion. So even then, even if you don't look at race at all, you will still end up uplifting more black people out of poverty than you would any other race, just on pure number, on a numbers game. And because of that, because the DA doesn't sort of explicitly say we will, uplift X race, or we will do X for this, or we will do this for X race rather. That's why they often get this image of being, anti-black, anti-poor, which in reality they are not.
Yeah, no, I know that. I think like what's interesting to me is, again, this idea of liberal. Like I see liberalism, if I can say that, as a good thing. I think most people nowadays would relate to liberalism in some way or another. Maybe not 100%, maybe not 50%, but in some way, because liberalism is to me doesn't sound like a bad thing. It's not like communism. That's horrible.
Exactly.
And authoritarianism is horrible. Tyrannicalism, whatever you want to call it, is horrible. Tyranny. Liberalism, and again, far right is also horrible. So, and I'm like the alt-right crazy people. So liberalism, as you mentioned earlier, is like smack bang in the middle, which I think for a lot of people on this planet are naturally there for the most part after everything we've been to as a species, like
I don't
all.
think you're all correct.
Oh, really? Okay, well, this is interesting. Why not?
I don't think that. I think the natural tendency of every human being on this planet is to want to be with people that look like them, speak like them, do the things they do, say the things they say, believe the things they believe. It is our natural human tendency to want to be in groups, because we are social beings, and your first instinct is to be with people. Like if you walk into, like, let's say you walked into a completely unfamiliar, like you walk to Antarctica, and there are like different people, people like 3 eyes and people with like 4 legs, whatever. Not only do they differ in race, but also in sort of phenotypical appearance. And then you see, Joe, let's say you see a purple person, but they have 2 eyes like you, 1 nose, and so they have everything else like you, but they just have purple skin. And everyone else is like, they have like a 3rd eye, or they have like a elongated head, or whatever. Everyone looks different. Automatically, you're going to sort of gravitate towards that person, simply because they look like you. You might walk up to them and they, speak a completely different language, but purely from a visual perspective, that is a person that you would gravitate towards. And later on, you might find out that actually there are other people who do not look like me, but actually I have more in common with them, which is actually what we discover most often.
Yes.
But inherently, people aren't liberal. Liberalism is something that one has to mature into, really, because even as a child, you won't necessarily go and blend with people that do not speak your language, or people, if you go into people's house and let's say they eat dessert before they eat supper, you'll tell your mom, like, I'm not going to those people again, they're weird, and your mom be like, don't say that, they just have a different way of, a different way of doing things. Which is why everyone says that the best thing that you can do for yourself to broaden your horizons and your thinking is to travel.
Yeah.
Because it's such a huge culture shock.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you can attest to this, Joe, as someone from America coming here, hearing people shout, footsack or whatever the case may be. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I was just making an example.
No, you're allowed to. I think, yeah, look, you'd be correct in what you said. I think I was trying to make the point of, you're right. When humans are first born, there's a lot to learn. But I mean, as we grow up and as we mature, and I think you phrased it correctly there, like you mature into liberalism. So I mean it like that. Like, I think as a species, where we are now in the history that we learn, okay, maybe not the history now that we learn, because some of it's warped, but when I was growing up, okay, let's take me as an example. I mean, everything you just said is me. I traveled, I've lived in America, I've lived in Egypt, I lived here. traveling, I agree with you 100%, really does open your eyes. It teaches you true tolerance and respect for other people and other cultures as well, religion as well, and all that other stuff. So yes, definitely matured into liberalism. And I think for those, even if you don't travel, I'm not saying you have to travel to be liberal, but even if you don't travel, I think, like you said it perfectly, mature into liberalism, or liberal, to become a liberal.
Yes.
I think is a very good way of putting it, because I think for the most part, the human species, knowing our past and knowing where we want to go, the rational thinking ones will fall or mature into liberalism, because everybody wants to work. Everybody wants to believe in the God they want to believe in. Everybody wants to work, provide for their family, own a house, have a family, and protect them, have the right to protect them, all that stuff. And then, and as far as I understand, is what liberal people want as well, like the right to live our lives the way we want to, as long as it doesn't affect or harm anyone else. I'm paraphrasing, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I
Go
think
ahead.
that's correct.
No,
I was just gonna say I think that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny to me how you and I have to kind of discuss this little topic, because it is confusing. I think it can get confusing, the way the corporate media has attacked some people who, I mean, do you know Russell Brand?
Yes, I do know Russell Brand.
The other day, he was labeled as alt-right.
What? Really?
Did you not hear about this?
Really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't hear. I'm sure there's some ridiculous reason.
Yeah, there is. So do you know, you obviously know Joe Rogan, right?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay. So there was this, I'm trying to remember now, this lefty, obviously one of these far left woke guys. I can't remember if it was just after what Neil Young tried to do, or if it was after, I think it was after the whole N-word thing with Joe Rogan. Someone took the time, to go through all of Joe Rogan's guests that he's ever had, and made 2 columns, a spreadsheet, made 2 columns, left and right. And of course, the alt-right or whatever list was huge, and the far left or the left was very small, like maybe 20 people, and the other 100 odd were all alt-right. Of these names that were on the alt-right section, Jordan Peterson,
of course,
and Russell Brand. Russell Brand still made a video out of it. He's like, I'm alt-right, guys. And he made a video out of it, addressing it, obviously, and he was explaining his worldview in the video. And this guy is probably more left than you, or I would say he was if there's such a thing, classical progressive, if we can call it that.
yes. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. But yeah, that's and that's the problem with the corporate media and people in social media with because this guy who tweeted this wasn't a small account. This is a guy, he had a check and everything, I believe.
I see. Verified.
Yeah. So, spewing that kind of nonsense out there into the world is what blurs the definitions. Because, oh my word, if Russell Brand is alt-right, we got problems.
If Russell Brand is alt-right, then I'm probably, I don't know, Genghis Khan or something. Cheapest. But that's an indication of what we started this whole discussion with, about how the meaning of the word has essentially changed so much as to almost lose its meaning to begin with. It's entirely meaningless now, because it's this whole sort of shift, right? And it's not so the idea of a sort of left-leaning liberal or progressive rather has shifted so much, right? But we haven't shifted sort of along with him to move sort of further to the left, to sort of to cede some ground in terms of some principles. If you are getting what I'm saying. So if this is the spectrum, they did this, and we just like stayed here.
Yeah.
So what they would have expected is that we sort of did this as they moved along, right?
Yeah.
But because we stayed here, because they moved further there, the further they go, the more like alt-right we see. But in reality, like the principles that people like you and I subscribe to haven't changed for the last 100 years. That's the entire point of principles,
Yeah.
is to always have your principles there so you can go back to them and see, am I sticking to the principles that I would like to adhere to? You know what I mean? That's literally the point of principles.
Yeah. I yeah, man. I like I said, the world's crazy, and this is why I wanted to have this discussion with you, because I think there are people out there that may see the word liberal and be fearful of it, but there's actually nothing to be fearful of, because you probably relate to that ideology more than any other, or political spectrum, whatever it is you want to call it. You'll probably relate
Yeah.
to that more than any other sphere of the political spectrum.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, guys. And how would you, final question before we move on to some of the questions in the comments. So in a kind of conclusion-esque kind of way, how would you define liberalism in 2022?
Liberalism 2022. That's interesting. This is gonna sound super like boring, because I was thinking about this for a while, and it's like what do you say about liberalism in 2022, right? That's not different from sort of liberalism in 2002, because like I just said, it's all about your values. It's all about your principles and your adherence to those principles, and it's always holding yourself accountable to the principles. So it's always reflecting back and being like, am I actually still do I still believe in the free market and private property and sort of individual freedom? So liberalism in 2022, ironically, is what liberalism has always been. And I do not think that there is a the tendency to allow the sort of the sliding of the spectrum sort of towards the left, right, or the sort of disconfiguration of the spectrum where progressives are now moving further and further to the left. There is a tendency for us to follow them, right? Because you sort of you don't want to be left behind, if you get what I'm saying. But liberalism in 22 my liberalism is exactly, in my mind, is exactly the same as Helen Suzman's liberalism. When she was in parliament, the only person arguing against apartheid. So for me, it's still a belief in private property, a belief in free enterprise, a belief in individual rights, a belief in living your life as you see fit, as long as it does not interfere with the rights of others to do the same. There's this saying that the right to swing my arm stops at the tip of your nose. So I can swing my arm whichever way I want, as long as I don't suck you in the nose. So for me, liberalism today is what it was sort of 20 years ago, obviously with certain caveats. The caveats being that as time progresses and as sort of the economics of the world and the way the world functions changes, one has to take on sort of certain ideas that you would not otherwise have taken on under different circumstances, right? So for example, the basic income grant is quite a huge topic, which in principle I'm a supporter of, but with the caveat that we have the money to pay for it. In other words, we have the economic growth. You laugh, but we don't have the money to pay for it. And
No,
everyone's
that's
like,
why I'm
yes, basic
laughing.
income grant, everyone needs the money, but we also need the economic growth
Absolutely.
to be able to pay for that huge bill that we will be adding to our fiscus. So that's, for example, an idea that most liberals now agree, because of the way the world is changing and the way that economies are changing. Ownership is increasingly concentrated in the hands of fewer and fewer people, and as the world shifts towards higher and higher skilled employment, the people who aren't that highly skilled are being left behind. And you need to at least provide a basic level of income where people are able to survive, right? We still have to figure out the details of this, because you don't want to incentivize people to not like upskilling themselves and working hard at improving their skills. But I think most liberals now recognize the need for that. But if you ask me that, like in 2002, for example, I would have said like no, well, basic income, that's like communism, But now I'm like, well, actually, because of the way the world now works and the way our economies are sort of changing, um, you know, you could become a billionaire overnight, but that's gonna happen for one in like 10 million people. The rest, so that you have that like the 1 millionaire, and everyone else of the million, so like 999,000, is like almost peasantly poor. So the need for basic income one does become more evident. But yes, Joe, in a nutshell, liberalism in 2022 is what it has always been. It is the adherence to those principles, and most importantly, it is the belief in the primacy of the rights of the individual over the collective.
Look, I think that is an answer, because in a way, saying that it is the same that it's always been will clarify some of the confusion that some people may have. That saying that it is what it's always been. It hasn't changed. The principles are the same. Don't let corporate media and other idiots on Twitter make you believe otherwise. And do the research, guys. Do the research.
Yeah.
Find out for yourself what a liberal is, and what a communist is, and what all these other far right people are, and you will see that. You'll see that me and Duwayne are not far right at all. We're nowhere near.
Also, I think that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I think that sort of for people like us, well, for people like me at least, because I'm a policy nerd, or policy wonk as they call them, and I'm someone that's, because I have a personal interest in politics, because I believe that it's a good way to contribute value to the world, because I believe that one can really improve the lives of your fellow sort of human beings through good public policy and politics, right? So I'm naturally interested in these sort of labels and the political philosophies, and maybe perhaps you as a host of a show about current affairs. But generally, people shouldn't care about these labels. Do not allow the label to discourage you from subscribing to the values that within your sort of inner being, that these values are right, or they are virtuous. Because there's no such thing as right. Right is always relative, but they are virtuous at least. What I would like to say is that they are virtuous in the sense that these are the values that the ideal human being should believe in. For example, equality before the law and those sorts of things.
Yes. Yeah. No, absolutely, and I would agree with that. There's also what I was trying to say earlier as well, how you mature into it. Some people would eventually get there at some point. Because, like I said, I was left. I didn't know I was like how left I was, but I was left. And then I kind of matured.
Left behind.
Yeah, left behind is a good one. Okay, so quickly before we end the show, I just want to get to some of the comments and questions that some of the guys have been commenting and questioning. Before I do, I just want to say to the viewers listening and watching, thank you so much for listening and watching. In case you just tuned in, I have Duwayne Esau on the show. He is a young man who has a very big interest in liberalism and public policy. He's studying public policy honors, and so he's, like he just said, he's a policy nerd, policy bookworm, whatever you want to call it. So he knows his policy. Which, speaking of which, by the way, you've inspired me to have a bit of I do a panel night on Tuesday evenings. I'm not doing it this Tuesday because I didn't do a show. You and I couldn't do a show yesterday, so with exception to this Tuesday. But next week Tuesday, I have any Tuesday that I'm able to. I have a panel discussion, and I'm thinking, because I'm seeing a lot of little comments about the basic income grant. So I'm thinking, let's have a panel discussion. I'll invite you on because you're for it. I'll get someone else who's maybe not for it. First person that comes to mind is Jumo. but Dodgy apparently is also against it. If I'm reading his comment correctly. So let's have a chat about the basic income grant.
Basically,
Why you should have
yeah.
it, why we shouldn't have it. We'll all give our take on it and stuff like that. I'll add some, like, I won't let you be alone. I'll try and find someone else who's also for it. Maybe you know someone, you can volunteer them.
Yeah.
And
I'm not. I don't think I don't think the argument will be good because they're gonna say, well, we can't do it now. I think we're all gonna agree that we can't do it now. But I would say that if under ideal circumstance, if South Africa was reaching high single digits or low double digit growth in terms of 8, 9, 10, 11% growth every year, we'd be able to afford it based off of our annual income as a country and the revenue we'd be generating. But definitely under the current circumstances, I don't see it happening at least for the next 10 years, unless there's a drastic shift.
all right, yeah, but everybody would agree with that. You're right. But it's the idea, though, of a basic income grant, like. 'Cause
Oh,
you
if they disagree on the fundamental idea, then we can have a proper debate.
Okay, well, Dodgy, do you agree on the idea, or are you also like? Because as far as I know, Dodgy's a liberal as well. So I don't know. But Dodgy, and I know Dumo doesn't agree, but maybe he also is on the side of like now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll ask him. Anyway, would you be willing to have a
Yeah.
not a debate? I don't like calling these panel discussions debate because it's more. I like to call them discussions. It's just a discussion.
Yeah.
So debate already kind of like assumes that someone has to win, and it's not about that. It's about opening ourselves up to different ideas and opinions and seeing where we land at the end of the discussion. Not really about winning, but more about like maybe you'll shift my opinion and be like, yeah, okay, I would be for it if so and so, or I'd be for it if, or maybe you'll completely change my mind.
Yeah, I must have put in this little disclaimer. I'm a sort of reluctant supporter of the basic income grant because we have such extreme. Our country is so cash poor, or people in our country are so cash poor. Yeah, if I was living in the UK, Canada, or any other country that had been achieving decent economic growth, where jobs were easily found and unemployment was low, I would not be supporting a basic income grant. So I say reluctant because I have to be practical in terms of the economic situation in our country.
Yeah, but I think the discussion will be around the idea of it.
Yes.
So the idea of it, whether it's in South Africa or it's in other countries, or just the idea of the notion that a basic income grant is even needed in a society today, any society, because like you said when you were explaining it, that some people believe it's moving towards communism, or at least you used to think that. So let's have that discussion. Is it still based in communism? Is it not? The idea of it, is it a good idea? Is it not a good idea? Without obviously, we'll obviously touch on the idea of it being in South Africa, which I think we'll all agree not going to work. But let's talk about the idea of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Okay, very quickly to the questions. Okay, so Dale joining us. Hello, Dale. Thank you for tuning in. I see myself as a classical liberal with some anarchists sprinkled in. That's just a nice comment from Dale. Thank you. Okay, so here's a question from Mork that I said I was going to keep an eye on. Here's a question to ponder: is fascism on the left or the right?
Fascism. I think fascism can happen on both ends of the spectrum, to be honest with you, because what underlies fascism is authoritarianism, right? And it's essentially sort of it's state control to the extreme. It's essentially trying to achieve the society, where no one sort of differs from each other, because the common saying is that Mao Zedong and sort of Adolf Hitler, they are different sides of the same coin. Because Adolf Hitler is often described as a fascist, and Mao Zedong is famously known as a sort of communist, right? But on either extremes, the conclusions are the same, even though the aims are different, right? So the aims of the left and the right are different, but the end result is the same. It ends in tears, as the youth say. It ends in it ends in mass murders. It ends in people going hungry. It ends in forced labor camps. It ends in state-controlled newspapers. It ends in no freedom of speech. It ends in the state controlling every facet rather of your life.
Yeah.
So I do think that they happen on both sides of the spectrum.
Would you call Justin Trudeau a fascist?
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far.
All right, so
I would say that
Yeah?
say that as Dale called himself a classical liberal with some anarchist sprinkled in between. I would call Trudeau a progressive with some fascism sprinkled in
Okay.
between.
That's a fair point. All right, so Dodgy, this is just a comment on the basic income grant, is a direct opposition to liberalism since it creates dependency on the state. We already saw how government tried to use it to their own benefit, not the people. So, of course, like we said earlier, here in South Africa, bad idea. I think we can all agree with that. But I like the first part of that comment. So I think that's something we'll also discuss on the evening. This again, the idea. It's the idea of it.
Yes, definitely.
So, and Dale also saying the problem with liberalism is that it has no way of stopping itself from its own destruction. It's too open and free. It's so free that it allows itself to self-mutilate. I think you mean progressive.
No, I understand actually perfectly what Dale is trying to say. He's saying that the core problem that the core issue with liberals and liberalism in general is the tolerance question, right? Is that should we be tolerant of intolerance? Because then it's a sort of snake. It's a snake eating its own tail, right? Because once you become tolerant of intolerance, it then becomes intolerant towards you, and it could come to a point where it comes. So let's say we are a group. So to make it clear, let's say a group of liberals are Jewish, right? Let's say a group of liberals are Jewish, and we find ourselves in the Second World War. What should we do? Should we fight back, or should we just be liberal and say, no, we're going to tolerate, we are going to be tolerant, we're going to be tolerant. So the argument then is where you draw the line. And as a classical liberal, you recognize that there is a point where you need to draw the line. And the general classical liberal response is that you should not be tolerant of intolerance, because the end result is that it completely eviscerates you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it that way. But I guess there needs to be a limit. I've often said this as well. Like, there's people on the left and the right. Essentially they want the same thing. So the left will everything leads to communism.
Yeah.
For the right, everything can lead to freedom, but absolute freedom is also a utopian idea that will never come to the fold, ever.
Exactly.
Because it leads, like you said, we'll eat ourselves. And I truly believe that. And this is we're going to have a discussion about hate speech, where I understand, because again, we're really talking about freedom of speech, we don't have, the one side argues that we really don't have freedom of speech because there's limitations like hate speech. I'm paraphrasing again very heavily. But I would argue that, again, if you have absolute freedom of speech, where does the responsibility lie on? Someone has to be accountable.
Exactly. Exactly. You have to have this kind of you have to have the sort of the moderate middle, if you will.
Exactly, and I think to a certain extent, we as a species have kind of seen this with ourselves. I'm talking about years and years of history here. That we've progressed, for lack of a better word, to the point where we're looking at ourselves and we're like, we actually strive for freedom, and we have a lot of freedom, we have a lot of rights, but these freedoms comes with responsibility, and that's what I would argue. So I would agree, yes, there needs to be some kind of limitation. If we're let go as a species to do whatever the hell we want to do, well, shit. I think maybe if that's the case, have you ever watched the movie Purge or The Purge?
Yes, I have. Exactly. That's exactly where we'll end up.
I think for an hour, is it an hour a day or an hour a month? No, it's a night.
No. It's 24 hours a year.
Yes.
So 1 day a year.
One
Yeah,
day.
1 day a
I
year.
think we should just have that. Like,
To let it all, it's like
just
as a sort of decompressing therapy, just let it all out.
yeah. I
Just
mean,
let it all
like,
out. Yeah.
some of us are gonna die. It's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
yeah. But that's the sacrifices that some of us will have to make. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So just to get, because then we abide by the rules. Maybe the world would be a better place. It's crazy to
This is
think of.
this is exactly how they started with idea, and then they ended up I promise you, there was one guy in the purge who was like, maybe we should just let people, what if we could decrease crime by giving them 1 day where everyone could do anything, which on paper it would work, because even in there it's like outside of that purge day, like because you see before, right? You see like how the society is before, as people are preparing for the purge day, and it's like if everything is sort of idealistic and things are perfect. And then you could see on paper how that would be a good idea, because then in your mind, even criminals, everyone in the world, right? Everyone in society, in your mind, you would be preparing yourself for this 1 day. So everyone on every other day would behave as perfectly normal human beings. Obviously, there would still be outliers, but the majority of people would still behave. So you would drastically reduce crime, but then at what cost?
Yeah, that's the big question. At what cost? Because, whew, man, you'd have to be Fort Knox in your house for that evening.
Exactly.
But let me tell you, I'm not gonna lie. There are, without getting in trouble on YouTube, let's just put it this way: if there was a purge, I'd maybe, yeah, the 24 hours would not be wasteful.
Wasted.
Yeah, wasted. Yeah.
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, let's put it that way, and I'll let people imagine what that means.
Yeah.
But
Draw their own
yeah,
conclusions.
Yeah.
on that one. Yeah.
and I think that's a great way to end the show. Duwayne, you are a fantastic human, and I thank you so much for coming onto the show and giving an hour of your time. I would love to have you back, and I'll definitely let you know about the basic income grant panel discussion. It'll probably only happen towards the end of March or beginning April, but we'll be in touch about that as soon as I find. And if you have anyone that supports it as well, please send them my way.
Will do. I think I'll try and get someone that's more economic in background.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Not that economic, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. And we can have a nice discussion. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Duwayne Esau. Once again, his Twitter profile is linked in the description below. If you liked what you saw tonight, please give him a follow. Duwayne, I will be separating this interview into its own interview, and I'll send you the link to that once it's out. So people don't have to watch the whole 2-hour show. They can just go straight to your interview. But yeah, Duwayne, anything you want to say in closing?
I think in closing, what I would like to say is that people should not allow themselves to be led by the nose when it comes to their values and beliefs. Believe in what you want to believe in, whether it's conservatism, liberalism, whatever. But actually, do take the effort to find out what it actually is that you are subscribing to. Because what I find is that a lot of people just say that they identify as a certain thing without actually knowing what it means. And that is often how people end up, actually believing in something that they don't believe in, ironically, because they don't actually understand the underlying values of it. I don't think that most people, like the most young people today at least, who say that, communism is the best thing and we should just, Bernie Sanders is their role model, and Che Guevara t-shirts, and, Karl Marx cups because it's hip and trendy. I don't think they actually know what the end of that road leads to. So just a little bit of effort, literally, just like Google stuff, just put in a little effort, watch some Joe Rogan, watch some Joe Emilio, put in a little bit of effort, and try at least get to a basic sense of what it is that you believe in.
Absolutely. Like, best thing you do is just research, guys.
Yeah.
Don't always trust the science.
Wow, what a way to end.
All right. Before we go, Dodgy has a message for you. I forgot to tell you. He says follow. He said Dale, but he means Duwayne. Yeah, you can take that all in. And here
I can't actually read it.
Oh, he says follow me back. He meant to say Duwayne, or I'll come for you on Purge Day.
Okay. Let me after the show. I'm gonna follow that guy back because
Yeah.
I need some allies on Purge Day.
Is the dodgy idealist. So the same name you see there is the same on Twitter. He's followed you apparently, so shouldn't be hard
Oh,
to
okay,
find.
cool. Yeah, I'll give him a follow back.
And then yeah, all right, cool. Duwayne, you can hang up, and I'll chat to you later. I'm just gonna end off the show very quickly. So once again, thank you so much for coming on and fighting for
Thanks.
liberalism.
Thanks. I'll see you Friday at Purge Club.
Okay, awesome, fantastic. I'll see you there. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Duwayne Esau. What a great guy. I think one of definitely a great guy. Love chatting to him. I wouldn't agree either with the basic income grant idea. But it would be interesting to have that discussion, the idea of it, later on some panel show soon to come. Speaking of panel shows, ladies and gentlemen, before I go, next week panel show, we're going to discuss ending the state of disaster. I'm going to have someone from DRSA, I'm going to have someone from AfriForum, and I'm going to have someone from IRR on the show, and I'm looking for someone from Sakhalika to also join, because those 4 organizations are busy fighting as we speak to end the state of disaster. I know at the beginning of the show I showed you that the government says that it might be the last one, but I'm definitely going to, or this might be the last month rather, of state of disaster. But I'm definitely going to ask those guys different questions about what does this mean? What does this actually mean? Does the state now saying that we're in the last month? They're saying that they are waiting for some documents or legislation to be passed. What does this mean? What is our future? And where these guys will take the fight to? We should get some answers next week, Tuesday. I'll be back Thursday evening, ladies and gentlemen, with another late night chat with the boys. We're going to have some fun. We're going to commentate and make fun of some TikTok videos and just hang with us as we talk a lot of kak. And then next week, Monday, my guest on the show is going to be someone who I'm looking up right now and talking so that there's no dead air as I look it up, because I cannot remember for the life of me who it was. I thought it was him. Mark Oppenheimer will be on the show, ladies and gentlemen, next week, Monday. So tune into that. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe, be kind to one another. Before I actually end off, let me just see what some of you guys were saying. I want to see what some of you guys are saying. I know I'm going over time. I'm well over time. It's fine. Let's see. You guys are laughing. Thanks for the laugh. Very good. I am... Dodgy saying amazing show. Dale saying lol. Cheers, Duwayne. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching once again. Fantastic show. Thank you. Yes, gonna tune in for that show. Awesome. Cool, man. Cool, guys. Thank you once again. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for supporting me. If you're not a member, become a member. If you are not subscribed, subscribe. That's free. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you Thursday evening for another show. We'll hang out an hour before. I hope you guys like the new the new format of the show. Anyway, stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.